Welcome to the Coachzing Show, offering you the latest creative content marketing tips to help you work less, earn more, and help more people. Are you a coach zinger yet? Join the community where the world's best coaches, therapists, authors, and speakers come to discover the latest industry trends and partner with other like-minded professionals. Go to coachzing.com/community to join. And now, here's your host, Doug Foresta.
Hello, welcome back to the Coachzing Show. This is your host, Doug Foresta. This is a show where we help you, coaches, therapists, speakers, and authors to work less, earn more, and help more people through creative content marketing. And of course, we talk about the work less and earn more piece. But today I have with me someone who is an absolute expert on Overwhelm and dealing with Overwhelm. And I know that many of you don't create content because you feel overwhelmed. I certainly have experienced that myself. So my guest today is Julie Gray, and I'll say a little bit about her or bring her right on. I do want to remind you before we start that if you'd like a transcript of this episode, you can go to coachzing.com/community and you'll get a copy of this episode, transcript of this episode and every episode. Julie Gray is a holistic time coach and author of True for You Time Management Workbook. She guides overwhelmed executives and entrepreneurs through the powerful process of discovering how to find more guilt-free time in your schedule, release overwhelm, and create a flow to your life that fits who you truly are. Her specialty is uncovering your unique system that fits your life and natural work style so that it actually lasts. Using mindfulness, body-based coaching, and behavioral research, she digs deep to release the emotional blocks and stuck mindsets that are holding you back from living life on your terms. And as a certified coach, she spent 18 months training in a blend of ADHD and life coaching from the Applied Institute of Coaching, where she is now a trainer, and she's certified through the International Coach Federation. She has continued her coach and productivity training through ADHD, mindfulness, and body-based programs. And you can learn more about Julie at profound-impact.com. That's profound, PROFOUND -impact.com. Julie Gray, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me here, Doug. I'm excited.
Thanks. So, why don't we start with the first question I always ask on the show about what your favorite content marketing strategy is, and then we can talk about the overwhelm piece.
Sure. Well, I am a big fan of blogging combined with email marketing. I've been in this game, the online marketing world, for quite a number of years, and for me, that combination has been by far the most successful. I love delivering high quality, shareable content, and really developing the relationship with my subscribers over the long term.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because otherwise people, it really is a process in a relationship, right? It's not just a one-time thing.
Exactly. And as a coach and working with people at a fairly deep level, I really am extremely conscious of cultivating that relationship and helping them really learn how to trust me, learn how to understand my philosophies, my approach, and ultimately help them determine if we're a good fit or not, if they really belong in my community.
Well, one of the things that we were chatting just for a moment before we got started, and I think it would be, it wouldn't make sense to bring you on and not have all your expertise about dealing with, time and overwhelm, and knowing that our listeners struggle with this. I'd love to talk about maybe the first piece about, I know that you help people release overwhelm. I'm really curious in your experience about what do you find it is that people feel overwhelmed about, or how people get overwhelmed?
Yeah, it's such a good question, Doug. So here's, in a nutshell, I'll give you a basic concept or a basic framework around overwhelm that can help a lot of people. By and large, people get overwhelmed by two things. One, they don't really know what it is that they need to focus on. What are their true priorities in the moment, in the day, in the week? And the other way that people get overwhelmed is when they don't know when they're going to do what it is that they need to do. So you might be somebody that actually knows what you need to do. You're clear about your priorities, but you have no clue when looking at your schedule when it's actually going to get done. That creates a ton of overwhelm and a ton of anxiety. And, you might be in a situation where you're not clear about either, which of course is going to exacerbate their sense of overwhelm even further.
I think it's so important because in order to create content, you have to set aside the time and you have to make the time to do it. But, if you're constantly overwhelmed, I think that's one of the biggest things that I hear back from people is, I just don't have time. I don't have time.
Yeah, it's very common, and we happen to all live in a society that is perpetuating that sense of that time scarcity, and it's really easy to get swept up in it. And part of, what I do for my clients is helping people really put the stake in the ground and say, you know what, I actually run my schedule, and I do have commitments and I do have responsibilities, and I will meet them, and I will protect time for me. I will make it a priority. And there's some strategies and some ways to make that easier to do, but ultimately at the end of the day, it really is about taking ownership of what is your true priority.
So that's kind of step number one then, is that taking ownership piece.
It could be for some people. Some people have to work their way up to that. It's not always the most intuitive and easy thing to do. One of the ways that makes it easier, quite frankly, is to sit down, and David Allen of Getting Things Done, he calls it a brain dump, and just sit down and get everything out of your head. This is when people are really in overwhelm, they've got so much more in their head than they realize. Break it down into what is now versus what is later. And then use that now list to really drive what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. This is one way for you to see just how much you're trying to get done. And as a result of that, it's far easier to say no to other people. And it's far easier to say no to different requests. And it's much easier, quite frankly, once you actually get clear about all that you're trying to accomplish, to say, okay, that's right. I really do need to protect for myself.
What do you see as the biggest mistakes that people make when they try to get out of overwhelm? I certainly can relate, personally to feeling stuck and overwhelmed. And so I'm curious about, what do you see as the biggest mistakes that people make?
One of the things that comes immediately to mind is I work with a lot of people that are really creative. They've got a ton of different passions. They've got a ton of different interests. And, more of that right brain, artists and coaches and all that good stuff. And one of the things that we live in this predominantly linear left brain world, right? And so many people that are creative of the more right brain bend think I should really be structuring my day like everybody else. I should really be making a to-do list. And I just, my coworker, she's so organized. I'm just going to follow her system, or I'm going to do what my husband says because he is so time efficient. And this creates a whole other level of stress and overwhelm when you're trying to fit the way that you think, the way that your brain works. It's like fitting a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work. And it makes people feel like there is some kind of character deficit when in fact you're just trying to force yourself into a system that's not designed for you.
I think that's a really interesting and good point, because there are so many people out there saying, right, just, this worked for me, so it'll work for you.
Exactly. Exactly. That's like that's what I've been battling in my career is, the time management approach of here's my system. Let's make it, let's force it upon you. And really what I've developed is a system to find your system.
Yeah.
I don't give you a time management system.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the people that we have a lot of coaches and speakers and entrepreneurs who are more right-brained, and we do get that sense from people that just a sense of, I think people feel like failures, like they try,
Yeah.
like I tried this and it didn't work, there must be something wrong with me.
Is exactly the case, Doug. And to be honest, I have a lot of empathy, and it kind of breaks my heart a little bit because people are walking around and they're feeling like, I can't ever get ahead. I can't, there's nothing that works for me. I hate time management. And yet they're the most active consumers of it because they really want to see if there's something out there that will work for them. And truly, ultimately what works for them is to say, oh, this is who I am. These are my strengths. This is actually what works for me. And it doesn't matter if my spouse doesn't get it or my coworker doesn't get it. This is how I want my life to flow and how I want to approach organization, time management, the whole thing. That's what works.
You mentioned as well about, in the intro when I introduced you, about mindfulness and body-based coaching. And I'm really curious about the connection between mindfulness, or maybe I should just take one at a time, like body-based coaching and time management. Like how does that fit together?
Yeah. So it actually fits together so beautifully. And in mindfulness too, I can wrap that in.
Sure.
Because we're stuck in our heads. That's where we live basically as a society. And our body, just tuning into the emotions in our body, just tuning into the areas of tension in our body, actually can deliver a whole different type of data and information to us at any given moment. So specifically for right brain creative folks, you've got big brains, you've got an intelligence that can actually get in your way at times. And so I really like to help people tune into their body, tap into their intuition to help guide them through the day and their decisions, their prioritization. Another way that I use it, and this gets back to the whole content strategy, is visualizations. So actually getting quiet, getting mindful, tuning into your body, understanding, does this actually work for me? Does this feel like a good approach? My entire approach is based on experimentation. And so what I have people do is they, once we work together, they come up with a few specific next steps. Then they see, does this actually work? And that's where they're cultivating the mindfulness. What piece of this does work for me? What piece of this doesn't? And really tapping into the body to help you, to ground yourself, to keep you focused and keep you connected to what actually is going to work for you. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. And, I just want to share with you and with listeners, a funny thing I learned yesterday from a client about, he went to the Andes and had, just what you'd said about how we live in our heads and that creates overwhelm. And he went to the Andes and talked to these, medicine men, and the name that they have for us, North Americans is like, it translates into giant heads.
Exactly.
And that's their perception of us because they live much more in their bodies and they don't experience that level of overwhelm that we do.
Right. And really owning your time and owning your getting out of overwhelm is actually so much about giving your mind a break, tapping into your body, allowing it to relax and listen to it, right? Actually listen to it.
I love that. Is that, and I know that I introduced you as a holistic time coach, and I'd wanted to ask you that question too. Is that what you mean by holistic time coach?
Yeah. So I'm going I feel much deeper than, here's the strategies, here's the core principles. I have that. It's definitely a piece of time management, but it doesn't really work if you haven't sorted through, these limiting beliefs and in your own process for cultivating your approach. And so I really try to get to the root of why people are overwhelmed, release some of those emotional blocks, find those limiting beliefs that are keeping them stuck, and then apply the strategies to time management that are actually going to work for them. And then the other reason I call it holistic is because, like I said before, I don't believe that there's such a thing as cookie cutter. Everyone deserves their own specific customized system.
I love it. As you're saying, it was a couple of things that came to mind. I mean, of course, when you really think about it, the connection between time and the body, I think it is telling how much we do live in our heads because, of course, our time really is nothing but our life energy, right? So
exactly,
it's where
exactly. It's so it's actually the most frustrating thing in the world sometimes to be called a time management coach because it's so much bigger than that.
Yeah.
But it's the avenue that I found.
Or let's put it this way:
serve the best.
When I'm dead, I probably won't care what time it is.
That's true. That's true.
The other thing that I was thinking about as well with this about time being the life energy is, I wonder if also you talked about the limiting belief thing, and I wonder if just thinking about listeners, do you think that there's a payoff to being overwhelmed and to being so harried?
Yes. It's I love this question, Doug. You've thought about this. This is so interesting. So one of the benefits that people get, a couple of benefits that people get from living in overwhelm, and this doesn't mean this is everyone, but this is just a few patterns that I've noticed, is one, it's a way to hide from life. It's a way to feel quote unquote important, but in a really disconnected sense. And if you're scared to put yourself out there, if you ever have read Stephen Pressfield, if you're fighting resistance, I think overwhelm is the drug of choice for a lot of people.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I was thinking, so for people that are listening right now, that you think about, to me, that's the connection to content creation. It's really the number one reason that people say that they don't create content. It's like, I'm too overwhelmed. But then I think, well, are you overwhelmed? Because if you put something out there and you put yourself out there, that's scary.
Exactly. And it's a way to protect yourself. People fill up their lives in such beautifully complex ways in order
I love the way
to
you said that.
avoid that really, really putting themselves out there. It actually becomes, in my opinion, a spiritual issue.
Yeah. Well, it's how are you going to spend your life, and
Yeah.
what are you going to do with it, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's so I'm curious too. I mean, it seems silly to ask you for a ninja tip about time management, given the holistic piece, but I will say that I wonder if you have for somebody who is sitting there right now and they are feeling overwhelmed, they're like, where would I even, I mean, you've given people some great stuff, but I'm just wondering if you have any other tips about, where would I even start? Where would I even, I feel so overwhelmed. Where would I even start?
Yeah. So what I would offer specifically to your listeners who are content creators is to opening up your calendar and finding a time where you will actually be comfortable being unavailable to everyone around you. And it might be 30 minutes, it might be an hour, it might be a day, whatever feels comfortable to you, whatever threshold feels good to you. And that's right there is tune into your body and notice what actually feels comfortable. And here's the thing, don't try to stretch yourself. Go with what feels doable. I call it laughably doable. So even if it's 5 minutes, pick that, shut down email, shut off your phone or turn it on silent, and let people know that you are unavailable for the next 30 seconds or 5 minutes or hour, and then really commit to what you're going to get done. Is it just putting words on the page? Is it sitting there and staring at the blank screen? Do what you need to do during that time. And I promise you, this is a muscle that you can build over time the more that you practice with it.
Thank you. And I also know that you have a free template as well, right, that you offer people.
Yeah, I have a free template and a little guide. I call it How to Get Out of Overwhelm in 5 minutes a day or less. And because I'm such a huge proponent of customizing and I believe in non-generic approaches, what you can do inside of this is uncover what your specific time personality is. There's 4 main time personalities, and I help you based on your time personality actually get out of overwhelm. And there's 6 steps in total, and there's many personality types that only do 1 or 2 of the steps. So download that guide. It's pretty cool. You will also get a daily planning template. And you just have to go to my website to sign up, profound-impact.com.
Julie Gray, thank you so much for joining me. You shared really, really great, profound words of wisdom with our listeners. I really appreciate it. Thanks
so much for having me here. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. So thanks everyone again for listening. We will be back Monday through Friday with more great guests helping you to work less, earn more, and help more people through creative content marketing. Till next time, this is Doug Foresta at the Coachzing Show.
Thanks for listening to the Coachzing Show. Need help getting your book out of your head and onto paper? Need help marketing your books or speaking engagements? We can do it for you. Go to coachzing.com to learn more. Are you a coach zinger yet? Join the Coach Zingers community where the world's best coaches, therapists, authors, and speakers meet. You'll get exclusive access to private mastermind calls where you can get instant marketing help from industry experts. Plus, we'll help you forge deals and partnerships with other like-minded professionals. Go to coachzing.com/community to join now.